Did you know that over 30% of adults in North America have difficulty controlling their anger? And that most people, adults specifically, report being angry at least on an average 14 times per week. Wow, that's a lot of angry people. Today I'm going to talk about the Chinese medicine perspective on anger and all its spectrum, from impatience to frustration, irritability, anger, and rage, to the point where it's just really, really violent. So there's a spectrum from frustration, impatience to rage. Anger is kind of like in the middle, and it's like a volcano. It can explode and come back down. But some people are constantly angry for years. Now, repressed anger can also be damaging to the body as well. So we're going to talk about what are the physical symptoms that come up when people are constantly angry, what treatment options patients have, and of course, we're going to talk about the best acupuncture points when it comes to anger and all its spectrum, as well as looking at different pattern of TCM diagnosis and nutrition, supplement, and everything we can do and give our patients tools and education so anger is not part of their lives, because it is not fun to feel angry all the time. For patients that experience anger constantly, they don't like themselves. They don't like to feel that way. A lot of people don't. I had a patient that came to see me years ago and he said, Clara, I need some help. I come home every night after work and I literally start yelling at my kids. And the whole evening, all I do is yell at them. And he goes, I feel like all I do is yell at my kids and I'm constantly angry at them. You need to help me because I don't like who I am with my kids. And of course, often anger comes from stress, from being so overwhelmed with life that it comes out as anger. Now, we're also going to talk about the root cause of anger and all the intricate part of how TCM looks at it using the 5 elements, because sometimes the root cause of anger is not stress or it's not anger. It can be something else. Acupuncture is such a great tool to put patients in a parasympathetic state, and sometimes patients are so run on stress and on the fight or flight, constant stressful life that they don't breathe anymore. And often when there's anger, deep breathing exercise will help as well. So we're going to talk about all this. Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, I'm Clara from AcuPro Academy, and I create Chinese medicine and acupuncture content for students and practitioners, making it easy to grasp and fun to learn. Let's go. Do you remember recently the big event that was all over the news about Will Smith, who lost his temper, got up on stage in the middle of the Oscar ceremony and slapped Chris Rock, who was the host of the Oscars? I mean, people talked about this for weeks, for months, for what happened then. This whole Chris Rock, Will Smith thing was just crazy. And the fact that he lost his temper and literally aggressed Chris Rock was so surprising and shocking to a lot of people, of course. And it's all on camera, so people are going to dissect it. We're not in those people's lives. We don't know what happened or what's going on with them. But that's what anger does. We hear about road rage, people that seemingly look okay and suddenly lose their mind. In a moment of anger, they create an event that they can never take back, and that could transform their lives forever and the lives of other people that they touch, right? There are a lot of stories we hear about people getting angry and losing their temper. Growing up, I remember that we had a neighbor that used to drink a lot of alcohol. And this is very common in France. We call people angry drunk, because a lot of people that drink alcohol end up being violent or angry. And when he was violent, he would literally come home and throw everything against the wall. And so his wife and his daughter would come and stay with us in our apartment. We had a tiny apartment, but they would stay with us the night until he calmed down the next day. And of course, this was occurring all the time. She stayed with him, they wouldn't talk for a week after that, and then they would patch things up, and then he would do it again. This was, to me, very scary. I didn't like people yelling because I was a very sensitive kid, so he scared me a lot, specifically, obviously, when he drank, because when he wasn't drinking, he was a very nice man. So we could see the correlation of anger and the liver, right? The liver gets affected by alcohol. And of course, in Chinese medicine, anger, frustration, irritability, impatience, rage, all related to the wood element, and anger to the liver organ or TCM system. So before we start talking about TCM and all its perspective and how we help and support patients that go through life with a lot of anger and repressed anger, let's look at a few more stats. 65% of office workers have experienced office rage. 45% of staff regularly lose their temper at work. Isn't that crazy? 80% of drivers claim to have been involved in road rage incident. That is really high. 80. And road rage sometimes means you're just going to follow someone and start kind of driving erratically, and hopefully everybody comes home and it's over and nobody gets hurt. But a lot of time, people do get hurt. I look at a few stats. Here's another one that's going to surprise you. 65% of angry outburst occurs over the phone. 26% happen through written forms like email or text. And only 9% of anger outbursts occur face-to-face. So I think when we're hiding behind devices, it's easier to get mad at people because there's no repercussion and there is no confrontation. I am someone that doesn't feel comfortable in confrontation. I don't like people when they yell. I don't like to know someone is going to yell at me. So for me, it's really hard to go and talk to someone. Let's say it was someone that I had to tell something and I knew they wouldn't like what I would have to tell them. Even if I choose my words properly and be really kind, when they start losing their temper, I shut down. I get scared. I get fear. I do not like confrontation. And my husband always says, that's your weakness. You are always scared of other people's reaction. And that is true. That is who I am. Let me know if that's you as well, if you're someone that doesn't like confrontation, because I sure don't. But then once in a while, I am stressed. And a few years ago, before I met my husband, I was living in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, in an apartment building, and I was renting a one-bedroom apartment. And every day I took the elevator because I was on the 9th floor to go to work. Most often, when I was in this elevator at the same time every morning, I would encounter the same person. This guy was in the elevator before me, and every morning I would say, "Good morning," and he would never answer. And then we would go all the way down, silence, go to work. And then every time I saw him, I would say, "Good morning," and he would never answer. Don't even look at me, ignore me. So one day, I was super stressed, and I was probably also PMSing. So those two combinations with a woman that usually is pretty chill and doesn't like confrontation. Well, I didn't even think. My liver yawn rose. I went in the elevator, I said, "Good morning," and he didn't answer. And so the doors of the elevator closed. We went down and I pressed the stop button and stopped the elevator in its track. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I said, "What is your problem?" And he just looked at me like the deer in the headlight, scared, confused, not sure what was going on. And I said, "Why can't you just say hello? I say hello, we live in the same building, and you never answer me. What is your problem?" And he just didn't say anything. He backed up against the wall, like so scared. I released the stop button. We went down, and that was the last time we talked. We never end up talking. I never said hello again. And that was that. But that was a little liver young rising burst that I had. So once in a while, when you're stressed or PMSing as a woman, it's not an excuse, the claw comes out. So I got to be a little bit of the Tasmanian devil. Oh my God, when I was growing up, the Tasmanian devil cartoon was something I loved because he had smoke coming out of his ears when he was angry. And I feel like smoke came out of my ears in that elevator. So that was my story for the anger part. Let's look first at the Western perspective when it comes to anger and its spectrum. First, let's look at the effect of anger and long-standing anger on the physical body. Increased heart rate and blood pressure, muscle tension, of course, feeling hot, especially in the face and neck, that's the liver yang rising, that's the heat coming up, right? Sweating or shaking, headaches, usually temporal headaches, upset stomach or digestive issues, rapid breathing, and even tingling sensation in the body. Often anger is also associated with other mental symptoms because the person that's angry, it's an outburst, right? It doesn't stay up all the time. It's like the volcano is exploding, it comes down, it explodes, it comes down. So often anger is associated with irritability, stress, anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, difficulty concentrating, inability to relax, and feeling tense or nervous. Fear can lead to anger. We could see this in Chinese medicine. If you look at the 5-element theory, water generates wood. Water is related to the fear emotion. Fear can generate anger. That's very common. If a parent loses a child and they have another child that is alive, when that second child is going to cross the road without looking both ways, the fear of losing their child is going to make them angry. And the reaction will be to yell at them and say, "What were you thinking? You could get killed." This is the anger that comes from fear. So often anger comes from something else. That happens also for people that have a lot of sadness or grieving. Now, this is more metal. Metal is associated with sadness and grieving. And metal over control wood, which means leads to anger. And often it could be repressed anger specifically. So when someone is grieving, let's say again, they lost a child and they're very sad, very grieving, they may not be angry outwardly, but inside they're so angry. Why this has happened? Why did my child die? Why? And then they're mad, but they might not necessarily let it out. So it's repressed anger. Repressed emotion is probably even worse than actually letting the emotion out, which is a release, right? For most people, because they feel more calm after. We could see how metal can over control wood, and so sadness and grieving can lead to repressed anger. Does that make sense? What are the Western treatment options for patients who suffer from anger, irritability, and rage? First one is therapy, of course. The second one is medication. That's a big one as well to try to calm the patient. But usually it's going to be more than one medication because they're going to have a medication for maybe depression and anxiety and the anger. It's going to be more than one, which makes it difficult for the patient to know which one is helping. And also the side effects of medication kind of defeat the purpose as well, often. But for some patients, it will help. And then the last one is anger management program. Learning deep breathing exercises. Exercising in general calms down the stress, relieves the stress. So it helps with anger and anger outburst. Of course, avoiding certain foods that will make anger worse, like alcohol, coffee, any kind of stimulants like energy drinks, or spicy food for that matter, and processed food. The gut is really connected to our brain, so it's really important to have a healthy gut or healthy digestive system to have a better understanding of our emotion and our brain. So it's really important to have a great healthy gut or a healthy digestive system because the gut-brain connection is very powerful. Also, improving sleep is key because a lot of people that are irritable all day long is because they don't sleep enough. They're exhausted, they're fatigued. That's another one that we need to focus on and help our patients with. Are you sleeping enough? Let's focus on that as well. There are a few supplements that have been shown to help with stress, with irritability, and with anger. L-theanine is an amino acid that promotes relaxation without causing drowsiness, so it can help reduce the stress, the anxiety that obviously contributes to irritability. Omega-3 fatty acids, of course, are really good to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, which can manifest as irritability as well. Magnesium, which really balances stress response and may help reduce anxiety-related symptoms, including irritability and anger. And last is B complex vitamin because particularly B12 and folate play a crucial role in mood regulation and can help maintain a positive mood. Those supplements can be quite helpful to start helping the patient. Now, let's talk about the TCM view when it comes to anger. As I said earlier, anger has a big spectrum from impatience. I ask patients this all the time. Are you patient? Oh, no, I have no patience. So that is a lot of stress already, and the person has no patience. Are you irritable? Yes. I don't ask patients, are you angry? You start slow with frustration, irritability, anger, and rage is higher up. I remember one time I asked this patient, do you feel stressed? And she goes, no, I'm not stressed at all. And I said, but you're a little short and you feel to me like you're stressed. I'm not stressed. Everyone around me is just stupid. Everybody at work is stupid. So see the irritability coming. And so I said, so everyone is stupid? And she looks at me and she goes, okay, fine, I'm stressed. But you could see the irritability coming out, right? So what happened? What is the mechanism? Well, the liver in Chinese medicine is in charge of good flow of qi all over the body. When the liver is stressed or stagnated, so lack of exercise, lots of overwhelm, lots of stress, everything starts to tense and the liver qi stagnate. When the liver qi stagnate, it has a couple of options. It can become blood stasis because qi moves blood, and blood stasis leads to pain. So we could have migraine or headaches, a lot of pain in the body, right? But we could also, if it's not going to be stagnated, it is going to rebel upward and become liver yang rising. And next, maybe liver fire, which makes it even worse, right? So liver qi stagnation can lead to blood stasis, which creates pain, or liver yang rising and or liver fire, which creates symptoms that rise up, like anger, irritability, rage, temporal headache, high blood pressure, insomnia. Everything is going to rise up. And that is what we want to address. So we want to bring that energy down, but we also want to move the liver qi, right? And as I said earlier, it can come from other system, other elements. As I said earlier, the root cause can come from different emotions and different system. Using the 5 elements, try to figure out why this person is so irritable or angry all the time. The main causes of anger, according to Chinese medicine, are alcohol, illegal drugs, medication side effects, chronic illness, kidney essence deficiency. Those are the main ones. It doesn't mean that they're exclusive. Like I said earlier, anger can come from other emotion. Remember that. We need to treat all the systems affected. Depending on where you are in the world, you may never have heard of MAD, M-A-D-D. MAD is Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And this came up as basically someone's child got killed by a drunk driver. My dad got killed by a drunk driver when he was walking home after his shift as a chef in a restaurant when I was 5. And that's how I lost my father. So I do not like when people drink and want to drive. I always make sure there's a ride home that is safe. I won't even drink a glass of wine if I'm the driver taking everybody home. So to me, I totally understand the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driver, is an association that really is promoting not drinking and driving because the consequences that occurs when people do this and the lives that are lost. So this is what I'm talking about, alcohol and anger, MAD, right? This doesn't mix. And so this is the correlation that we could see with the liver, of course, and Chinese medicine perspective. Before we start looking at different TCM pattern diagnosis, let's talk about auricular acupuncture. I love ear acupuncture. It's one of my favorite micro systems. The best point where people are coming in and they have a lot of anger, irritability, rage, frustration, impatience, of course, number 1 auricular point is Shenmen, the gate of the mind, located in the triangular fossa, best point. Of course, we have to put the liver point and then the heart. The reason why we put the heart point is because remember that in Chinese medicine, all long-standing emotions will eventually affect the heart. And what I love is nowadays, Western medicine is coming around saying that the heart is actually connected to the brain through the vagus nerve, and emotions are related to the heart. All emotions come from the heart. Well. Ancient medicine is validated in modern time. Don't you love it? Before we continue, below I have the link of other emotions that I've done. I have a podcast on worry and overthinking that was very popular. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. The link is below. I have a video on fear and phobia, and then I have another one on sadness and grief as well. So you have all the emotion treatments done for you. Check them out. All the links will be below. Now let's look at the 2 main patterns when it comes to anger. The first one, of course, is liver qi stagnation turning into liver yang rising. This is what I was explaining earlier, right? It's the volcano effect. So the person is very irritable And then they have a short fuse. They become very angry very fast, right? That explosion. They have rib pain or hypochondriac pain, which means kind of like between the intercostal space, and it's moving. It's not always in the same space. They have tendency to burp or belch a lot. They sigh a lot. They have temporal headaches, very chronic. They are unhappy looking. They look like they're not happy, like they're angry. Have you ever seen someone that looks kind of like morose, like they're just unhappy? That person definitely looks like this. It's not the angry person that looks so happy and suddenly becomes angry. This is more like this person always looks unhappy. They have a thin yellow coat on the tongue, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they just have the red sides of the tongue. And because the liver area is on the side of the tongue, then the side of the tongue could be red as well. The pulse is wiry, and then of course it could be rapid, but the rapid is going to come when they have that outburst, when the liver yang rises. Now, one of the best formula for this is, there's two formulas. One is Chaihu Shugansen. So Chaihu Shugansen is a great formula for soothing the liver. Another one is Shayao-sen, but if there is a lot of heat, we could add up the modified version, which is Jia Wei Shayao-sen. Shayao-sen is often translated as the rambling powder or the easy and wanderer, right? Supposed to be smooth. And we use Shayao-sen if there's also a spleen qi deficiency with the liver qi stagnation. If not, then Chaihu Shugan-sen is a really good formula. Now, if you don't use formula, that's okay. Let's talk about acupuncture points. So first of all, we need to move the liver qi, soothe that liver qi, allow for better flow. Of course, we open the gates with the 4 points, large intestine 4 and liver 3. People always ask me, you said 4 points, but you only said 2. Well, that's 2 bilaterally, right? 2 large intestine 4 on both hands and 2 liver 3 on both feet. That is 4 points. Make sense? The next one is, of course, liver 2. Liver 2 is the best point to bring liver yang down, calm that anger, that volcano effect. Large intestine 11 will clear the heat. Plus, large intestine 11 is a ghost point that is really useful when people have bursts of anger, when they lose control or they feel like they're out of control and they're losing control. So large intestine 11 has to be there. Now, heart 7 to calm the mind, because obviously we have a lot of issue with that. Ren 17 is a good point to put there because, first of all, it's the influential point of qi. So it opens the chest, relax the chest, because there's a lot of tension there, right? The person is really tense for quite a while. So this is a good point to add. Pericardium 6, because liver qi stagnations turn to liver yang rising. Often that's a word overacting, over-controlling on earth and creating some stomach qi rebelling. That's why the person is often burping or has sour regurgitation or has bad breath. That is often the case with anger, and it can also lead to ulcers. So pericardium 6 will bring it down. Now, if there's no stomach qi rebelling, you don't have to put pericardium 6, right? That makes sense. Now you could use yin tong, ear shenmen, and other points to calm the mind as well. This is just a guide to kind of start you up. Have you gotten your copy of my Chinese Medicine Treatment Made Easy book yet? You can get the PDF with video links to complement it, or the hard copy that ships all over the world. The graphics you're seeing today are from this book, which covers over 160 syndromes with the best acupuncture points, ear point, diet, formula, and so much more, looking at all the patterns for those syndromes. Get your copy in the link below today. The second most common pattern is still an excess pattern, which is liver and gallbladder fire. Now, this person is going to be very agitated all the time, very irritable, with a lot of angry times. They're going to have hot temporal headaches where if we put a cold compress, it's going to feel much better. They're going to have vertigo or tendency to dizziness, bitter taste in the mouth, that's the fire, red face and or red eyes. This is like the Tasmanian devil, right? Bloodshot eyes, that is a liver fire. Rib pain again, dark urine, constipation because the fire is drying everything and slowing everything down. The tongue is going to be red with a yellow coat and probably some crack because again, fire dries body fluids. And then the pulse is going to be wiry, rapid. Now, one of the best formula for this is Long Dan Che Gan Tong. And if I don't pronounce this properly, I'm very, very sorry. The main herb in this formula is landansao, which is in French, gentiane. Gentiana, it's a flower. Anyway, that is a beautiful formula to bring the liver fire down, and we can use it for many, many reasons. However, it should not be used long term because it's really drying and really cold. So if there's a lot of spleen chi deficiency or there's already some issue with weakness, we don't want to use that formula for a long time. So if you don't use herb, I would not recommend to use herbs because they have side effects that are very powerful. Let's go back to looking at the acupuncture points for liver and gallbladder fire. Of course, we need to bring the fire down. The best point to bring the fire down is stomach 44. We're going to put liver 2 to bring that energy up, that volcano up, bring the yang down, the energy down. Large intestine 11, of course, has to be there because it is for out of control anger and it clears heat. We're going to put gallbladder 41 and gallbladder 43. Gallbladder 43 is great to bring gallbladder fire down. And then again, we want to relax the body. So heart 7 to calm the mind. Maybe pericardium 6 if there is a lot of digestive issue. If there isn't, then we don't have to put it. Ren 17 again to open the chest, relax the body. And anything else you want to add to calm the mind, like yin tong and anything that you deemed really useful for your patient. These two are common pattern when it comes to TCM diagnosis for anger, but they're not exclusive, right? There could be other ones. Often they are excess, they're not really deficient. However, someone can have excess and deficiency as we see in clinical practice all the time. One thing that surprised me is often people don't want to hear about nutrition. Every time I do a podcast or videos about nutrition, it doesn't perform as well as other videos. And I found that fascinating because the gut has to receive really good food for the mind and the brain to feel better. And when we feel overwhelmed or stressed or unhappy or joyless, putting unhealthy food into the gut, into the digestive system, does not nourish the body, the brain, the mind, and the spirit. I feel like nutrition is really at the center of who we are. Spleen and stomach, earth is at the center of our whole health. So it's really important to emphasize and educate our patients that their diet needs to nourish their brain. So taking supplement is great, but eating real food is going to go a long way. So I just wanted to remind us of this because sometimes we forget. I hope that was useful and in turn really beneficial to your patients. Watch this next. You're going to love this video if you haven't seen it yet. And no matter what, keep rocking it using TCM because after all, acupuncture rocks!